So Ian and Lynwen have known each other for over 40 years, and they'll be married for 44 years this year. They've got 2 daughters and 5 grandchildren. They pastored a church for over 40 years, and Lynwen is a school teacher, retired I might say, who can't keep her feet out of schools. So she still dips in and out teaching. And welcome to my channel.
Thank you.
So I guess my first question is, how did you meet?
Well, we met in church. We were young people together in the youth group, and that's where we first met in our early teens.
Wow.
Yeah.
And we grew up in church. He became my best friend, and really there wasn't a time that I didn't know he wasn't around.
So when did you first recognize that you were meant for each other? When did you get that?
I think I was about 18, and I think
I was
14,
I was 15,
15.
and I was assured we were just best friends, where we just went to church together. All we did was go to church together, go home together, and he came into my house and met my parents, and my parents really took him under his wing as well, didn't he? And same with his parents. But at 15, it seems very young now, and I would not advocate it for my grandchildren. And we were quite innocent. But I was assured at 15 that God had plans for us together. And I remember at 15 my mum sent in for him to come on holiday with us because I was so miserable without him. We grew up. I went to university and Ian went to Bible school. So we were apart for 3 years, but we wrote every single day.
Every single day?
We
Every day
wrote a
for 3
letter
years.
every day.
Didn't have mobile phones in those days.
And that we'd queue at the
the
local phone box to make our phone calls once a day.
Yeah, and we were that sure that God had a purpose for us together.
So what was it about each other that you liked? What was it about Ian that drew you to him, and vice versa?
Well, it wasn't his bank balance.
I was say, how can you not fall in love with the most beautiful girl?
No, we were absolutely good friends. His idea of friendship was the same as mine. We had lots of different hobbies. Ian, I was wanting to be a teacher, and I did music, and music wasn't your thing.
No.
But our biggest thing was we just wanted to be together and to serve God together. I think that was,
and I think that was the driving force behind everything, is that we were committed to God's will for our life.
Right.
And we shared together, talked about it, and planned together. And I think, as we put God first in our lives, so everything else began to fit together like a puzzle. And that's how it's been all the way through our lives. It's just being committed to that one thing, that God's will was paramount.
So how were you able to circumnavigate from being single to being married? How easy was it, to leave and cleave and be one?
It was because my family is very small. I just had one sister, and there was only my mother at home. Lynwen is a large family, and it was just natural because Lynwen's family accepted me. I was always at the house, whatever, and my family accepted Lynwen, and it was just the natural. It just progressed. Our relationship wasn't rushed. We were friends. Courting and friends for a number of years before we'd been talking about marriage, planning marriage, but everything had to fit in. We never rushed into.
No, I knew I wanted to be a teacher. That was 3 years in university, and felt God calling him into the ministry, and so we knew that would be the time.
And that took a few years.
So how did you learn about marriage in itself? Did you go to premarital classes? You go for what? How did you learn how to?
I think he was watching my parents'
I think
example.
it's example.
It was example.
And hopefully we're an example to our children. I think we are. They've been married 18 years. My eldest daughter and my youngest daughter have been married 15 years.
Wow.
So it's I think it's example.
Yeah, my parents were our example.
Your mum and dad were a terrific example of what marriage and family life should be like.
The biggest thing was my parents absolutely loved Ian, And
I think that helps.
it helped so much. It helped so much.
Yeah.
And you almost looked on my dad as your dad in the end.
Because I didn't have a dad at home, and but they were the example.
Obviously, as Christians, we kept ourselves absolutely right until we were married. There was nothing that we did that shouldn't have done.
Are we talking about no sex before
No,
marriage?
Absolutely.
absolutely.
No, yes.
Yeah. So what were the challenges, not of your marriage for now, but what were the challenges of ministry? Did that impact on your marriage?
And as soon as we were married, we actually took on other people's problems because we went straight into the ministry within 1 week of our marriage.
Oh, wow.
I was the youngest pastor's wife in the area, 21. And
21
I was
to be a
21.
pastor's wife.
I'm doing my teacher training at the same time. I'd done my degree.
No, I don't think it impacted. We had challenges in the ministry, you can imagine.
We were very young.
You're leading a church, you have people who have problems, and I think that we were so engrossed in other people's, or sorting other people's problems out, we didn't have time to have problems.
I think as well, we had known each other for so. I actually, I know it sounds silly. I know we've been married 44 years, but we've sort of been together for over 50 years. I actually know what he's thinking without him saying.
Yes.
And we were such good friends that we just got on with it. We were 5 years before we had our daughter, and for those 5 years we just learned to grow together. But people were very, kind in the fact that we were pastoring people in their 50s, 60s and 70s, and we were in our 20s.
Wow.
And they accepted us, which was the amazing thing.
But our marriage just...
But we've had, to say we had any problems, we've had challenges. Life is full of challenge. But there's never been any problems.
No.
We've always discussed, prayed, whatever, things through.
So you said that you have had challenges. What sort of challenges would you say you've had?
Well, in our
Marriage,
marriage,
yes.
I think one of the challenges, we haven't had challenges personally, because we've always said we would never let the sun go down on our wrath. We've never had an argument that I couldn't tell you when we argue.
We don't argue, do we?
No,
I just say yes. Yes, dear.
So that's the secret.
That's the secret. But we've never had any marital challenges.
No.
We've had challenges.
In
I
life.
lost a child when we'd been married for about 3 years. I had a baby that died before it was born.
All right.
And then they told us we couldn't have any more children.
Oh, wow.
And so that
was that preceding the girl?
Oh,
Yes.
yes.
And we just literally just prayed. And both my daughters are miracles. We didn't have to have any sort of special treatment, but we just prayed and said, God, would you give us children? And the doctor said, we don't think you'll be able to. And yet we've got 2 beautiful daughters that God gave us.
They are miracles.
So, yes.
Yeah.
So that was a challenge in one sense, and we've had people who have passed away in our family. Both our, well, not my dad, but your parents.
My parents have passed away, and so there's life is challenge, but it all depends how you receive the challenge.
Yes.
If you receive it with a defeatist attitude, you're always going to have problems. But you have a positive outlook, positive faith, positive trust in God, and the answers come. Not always as we want them, but God sees us through, and it's having that trust in God to know that His will is perfect. But there's been challenges.
We've had financial pressures. When we moved from South Wales to England, we had to leave our family there. My daughter, was 12 weeks old. And we came here to take on the church.
We came here and not knowing
challenge.
Anybody.
We just knew this was... And that was a big thing, because taking a 12-week-old grandchild away from the first, the family. But I remember saying to my mum, God had called us, and her reply was, when you were a baby, we dedicated you to God's service. And if that's where God wants you, then that's where we will support you.
So you had a supportive family.
Which is what we tried to do with our own daughters.
Yeah.
Both our daughters are in the ministry, and we've done the same thing for them.
And I think if people would do that, is to be supportive of their children and give time. Everything demands time, and today people like to have their own time to do their own things. But I think if you give time and show support to your family, then it reaps amazing rewards.
I mean, there have been challenges in the sense of where it hasn't just been a bed of roses, and everybody had it on a plate. We've had to work for it.
Yeah.
Sometimes we haven't had the money to do anything.
That's right.
But God always provided. And that's what, you know, the way we looked at it. If God wanted us to have it, then God provided a way.
So I'm just wondering, you know, with new couples coming up these days, I don't know. Sometimes it almost seems as if people aren't as committed to marriage as, say, your generation. What sort of advice would you give a couple who came to you today to say, I've met the one I want to get married to?
Well, we do meet with couples and have married young couples and taken them through marriage courses. One thing I say to the men is that the scripture says, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. And I think if the husbands would devote themselves to their wives, to the family, to the marriage, so many problems would be avoided. And I'm sure Lynwen will come in here in a moment.
In what sense? So many problems were avoided in what sense?
Well, I think it's this, so often people come together and are married, and once the first flush of, you know, the excitement of living together, building home together, it's so easy to drift apart, and people take on their own, you know, things that they want to do, hobbies, whatever, and work, and sometimes there's a separation. And I think in any relationship you have to work at it, and you have to give yourself to it. And I think it's this, the word that you used just now was the word commitment. Commitment means commitment. You're either committed or you're not committed. There's no half commitment. If you're half committed, you're not committed. It has to be total commitment to the relationship in every situation, even when there's perhaps misunderstandings or maybe you don't agree. Because you disagree doesn't mean you have to fall out. You have to work at it. It's a commitment to working it through.
I think as well that it's a determination that at whatever happens, there are times where there are demands on people for lots of things, but he is my total priority first.
Okay.
Because even in public, we might, you know, be seen together. We have to be the same in private. God is first, but then, you know, and I know a lot of people think, well, I can have, I've had my own career. But if the job, it was either me or the job, Ian or the job, it would be Ian every time.
Okay, so putting your spouse first.
So often people say, oh, well, we're not talking.
You don't talk.
I can honestly say in over 50 years, never, and I stand to be corrected, never have we not talked.
Well, when I give him chance.
There is that.
Okay. And what would you say to the women? He said to the men, he'll tell them, love your wives.
And I'd say to the women, have eyes only for your husband.
Have eyes only for your husband.
Because it's very easy to fall for flattery. But have eyes only for him. Not for him, but for your husband.
For your own husband.
Yeah, have eyes only for him, for your own husband. And I think that doesn't mean to say that you're a doormat. If you see, as a Christian husband, I always believe that you are equal. You have different functions. I'm not his doormat, but he, as a Christian, raises a wife up to be his equal and yet protects her and shields her. And I think that's the biggest thing for a wife, is you are not a doormat, you still have an opinion, and if you work together, you'll be able to share your opinions. And we are equal in this, and yet I still consider him before I do anything else.
Ian and Lynwen, thank you so much for agreeing to this interview. You're my very first ever interviewees.
Well, it's a privilege.
And I'm so happy I chose you. And I'm so happy you accepted my invitation.
So our privilege.
And I do believe that this will bless other people.
Hopefully.
Hopefully, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, that was a brilliant interview with Ian and Lynwen. And, you know, the few points they said about husbands loving their wives, wives knowing that their husband's equal, and putting each other first, I think are real nuggets of wisdom. I'm really happy I interviewed them. And I hope you found this helpful. I hope it does bless you. So until next time, bless you and yours. I'm Jemai Castle, 5-Minute Therapist.